Hey, I am a revision geek and I want you to come and join my revision geek world. Welcome to the Diaries of a Revision Geek. I cannot wait for you to watch these interviews. They are so super fun. I've got qualified accountants together talking about their revision journeys, the highs, the lows, the struggles, and all the things in between about how other people got their plaque up on the wall and how they got qualified. I've picked qualified accountants in my LinkedIn network on purpose to help and support you guys, to inspire and motivate you if you are on your accounting journey. Feel free to like and subscribe below for more. Just click on the icons and I will keep you up to date with the Diaries of a Revision Geek. Let's get started. In today's interview, we have Osei. He is CIMA qualified. In Osei's journey, we talk about how he took his time to qualify to gain experience, how he self-studied his exams. He is an easygoing, chilled out guy, but don't let that deceive you. He had a plan, he had his motivation. We talk about how he balanced that motivation and what motivation meant for him. There are a few Wi-Fi technical issues in our interview today, so apologies in advance, but I hope you enjoy it as much as we did. Enjoy the Revision Geek interview. Let me know what you think. For today's interview, we have another Revision Geek in our corner. I'm super excited about this one. I have no idea what the revision journey is going to be today. So welcome, Osei. How are you? Introduce yourself for us.
Hi, Helen. My name is Osei Wynter. I am a CIMA qualified accountant. Quite recently qualified. I work in private equity, so in funds. I previously worked in real estate, so as in project accounting and real estate accounting. I'm also a graduate. I've graduated in 2016 in finance and accounting, and I studied accounting at A level as well. So I've actually got a lot of studying experience when it comes to accounting.
Oh, I look forward to hearing more about that. I have an A level in accounting as well, so we join the club. Okay. It's a good club, right? The CIMA club, A level accounting, right? It's good. So you're CIMA qualified, which is great. So yeah, introduce me to your story. Talk me through your revision journey, what your CIMA journey was like.
So I graduated uni in 2016, and I struggled to get a job after uni. So I studied finance and accounting, and I got a 2-1, and I still struggled to get a job. So I went to loads of graduate schemes. I think I went to loads of recruiters, and I was even considering finding a job outside of finance. And yeah, that's how bad it got. But eventually I managed to land my first role, which was good experience, but it wasn't what I pictured a finance role to be. And through that role, I realized that if I wanted to, I guess, rise the ranks is a nice way to put it, I had to qualify, I had to put some weight behind any experience that I gained. So that was at the end of 2017 when I started to study CIMA. I chose CIMA because I was still in the mindset that I didn't want to be stuck doing, how can I put it, like just strictly accounting. I wanted to sort of broaden the knowledge base that I'd be learning throughout, I guess, qualifying. So I saw ACCA as an option. But I saw that was more geared towards audit and tax and all of that sort of heavy sort of finance and accounting area. And I wanted to be more in the, I guess, more in the business partnering sort of area. So still where I'm using my accounting knowledge, but for the benefit of management and actually working on influencing business decisions. So that's why I chose CIMA.
And I would totally agree with you as well for that. There's not loads of difference, but there was just that little piece of difference where I say ACCA is a little bit tax specific if you want to go through that route, but CIMA is a little bit more business partnering, commercial leadership, a little bit. They're still very similar. So that sounds
they've got loads of crossovers. Yeah, you're definitely right. So with the studying journey, it took me longer than I expected to to qualify, to be honest. I gave myself 3 years and it took me 4. I'll blame, what happened in 2020.
Well, we don't say,
mainly because I wanted to take my time. I was a person who just did 1 exam at a time. I never studied for 2 exams at a time. I passed all of them first time, but I always took my time. So I did minimum 1 every 3 months, I'd say. And the main reason behind that as well is because I didn't want to just qualify, because I received some really good advice from a senior ex-colleague. She told me, don't just study and just qualify when you don't really know anything. You haven't got your experience to back it up. So I thought I might as well just take my time while I'm working to study. And then by the time I'm proficient enough and have enough experience, I can actually be qualified as well. So I wasn't in a rush to study and qualify. So if that's like some advice for someone, I'd say if you're just starting, there's no rush.
That is a good piece of advice. It's so true as well, because you won't get your plaque on your letters unless you've got that practical experience. But actually, you won't get the job at certain career progressions without some practical experience. Exactly. Yeah, the theoretical exams are only a little piece of it, for sure.
Exactly.
And did you have any exemptions from your degree, and what was your first exam?
I did. I had 5 exemptions, so I didn't have to do the foundation level of CIMA. So there was 4 BA exams. So I'm grateful for that. And then I didn't have to do the first financial pillar of CIMA, which was F1. But that actually came back to bite me, because when it came to the case study, I then had to go in and buy the revision book for F1 to study for the first case study anyway. And then when it came to the next level of CIMA, F2, then there were loads of F1 modules that I didn't really go through. So then I had to go back through those to then do F2 as well. So I don't think the exemptions are always the best thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I kind of say that as well. I had a few exemptions and they didn't support me for the first time I took the exam, because it was just so much of it was so new, and I was meant to be at this level and I wasn't, and I failed mine. But did you take longer to sit your operational case study on your F2 exam because of those exemptions?
Yes, I actually did. So with my case study, I think I passed the operational case study towards the end of 2018. So the operational level, even though I only had 3 exams, it took me a year to complete instead of my estimated 9 months. So it didn't really make a difference in time.
Congratulations for passing first time. That is a good achievement. I hope you have that on your CV and you are shouting about that. It's not the end of the world if you don't have it, honestly, because obviously I don't have it, so it's not the end of the world. But if you do have first time passes, guys, shout about them. It's the cherry on top of the cake, and I want you to shout about them for sure. So well done.
Thank you. To be honest, it's not something I really think it's as bragging rights, because even if I failed, I wouldn't really think any less of myself or any less of anybody else who fails. It just happens. Like, some exams are really tough. So I think people say that people who pass driving tests second time round are better drivers.
Oh, that's me. I'm the best driver ever. So definitely. But I get what you mean with the bragging rights. But I do encourage you to shout about it if you change your if you change your job, and have it on your CV, because it is an achievement. It's not the be all and end all for sure, but it's an achievement.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's drill down a little bit more into your revision journey then. First time passes. How did you study? What was your, did you use a tuition provider, or how did you study for your journey?
So I used a mixture. In my first case study, I went to a tuition provider. That was Kaplan. So I went to the class there. And to be honest, I didn't think it was as beneficial for me. And I just saw it as a waste of money. The company I was at the time paid for it, but I just saw it as a waste of money. Simply because that the tutors would, I guess, essentially just go through what is in workbooks that are readily available. And the only value added that I saw there was that you could raise your hand or your work would just be marked. But again, you can find cheaper solutions online for that service. So for the rest of the exams, that was the only one I went to class for, the operational case study. But for everything else, I self-studied.
So well done.
Thank you.
Talk us through your self-study journey then, because obviously that was the route that you chose, and yeah, nothing wrong with that obviously at all. I did self-study some of mine, but what did that mean for you? How did you self-study?
So self-study was, I guess when I started, it was hard to find the correct materials to use. So what I did is I got the Kaplan textbooks. So that's what I would use for the actual revision and learning the material. And then I would get BPP question books and the Kaplan question books, so that when I'm going through exam questions, I could see two different writing styles, so that when I'd approach any exam, I'd have a wider range of questions and also a wider variety of wording on questions as well, to be able to go through and actually understand. So there's less chance of me being tripped up.
That's a lot of questions to have. That's a lot of questions to have. That's good. That's a good option. I'm glad you only had two, because I feel like you could have had loads and loads of resources, but two is a smarter way for a bit of a breadth of questions. But that's a lot of questions.
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, each book had around 200 questions, and then the BPP ones usually had 2 mock exams at the end. So yeah, it ended up maybe about 400 per, I'd say, per module, but you'd be surprised how quick you could go through them.
Yeah, 1.5 minutes a mark, 400 mock. Yeah.
Yeah, you can get through it in about a week, so yeah.
Don't tell everyone that. Is that what, did you use a study plan or a revision plan?
Yes and no. So my revision plan was just get home and study any free time that I have. So I'd go to work and then come home from work and then probably study for like an hour or so every day. I wasn't so strict as in there was a set time for me to study or this had to be done this time. I guess closer to exam times, I did find myself studying a bit longer, sometimes during the night, as I guess most people have done or are still doing. Yeah, I didn't really have anything set in stone in terms of a study plan.
And that's okay. Obviously, loads of people don't have that for sure.
Yeah.
But did you know when you wanted to get onto your revision phase and when you wanted to have like the learning from the textbook and then do the practice questions before you sat your exam? Did you have a plan even in your head with that?
Yeah, so what I would do is, because I self-studied, I need some sort of motivation. My only motivation was to book the exam. So before I started even studying, I'd book the exam, and then make a note in my calendar saying this is the day of your exam. So if you haven't studied up until this point, then that's pretty much on you. That was like my conversation with myself. So I'd first go through the textbook, and then once I've done with the textbook, I would then go through the questions. So I try to do that about a month before the exam, start going through the questions, just so that I have enough time to understand the range of questions that I'd be asked.
Yeah, that's why I kind of asked an extra question on that, just because I thought, I don't think you do practice questions for just a week. So yeah, I am really glad that you said, yeah, I'm glad you said you do it for a month.
Yeah, no, I gave myself a month to do it.
Because there is a breadth of questions, you know, you do need to cover those questions and to understand that, like you said, the different language more than once, or just to actually understand what the questions are going to be, right? So I'm very glad you've done it in a month. So you talked about your motivation for each exam. You would write it in your diary, and that would be the kind of end result for you to be like, that's what I need to motivate and drive myself for. But did you have a more of a general motivation to keep going, to carry on?
A more general motivation, it was really just to, I guess it reminded me of gaining a degree. So I just wanted to finish something that I started, essentially. I just wanted to I guess, achieve it. I know it sounds very cliche, but it's just once I started CIMA, I made the decision that this is something I really want. This is what's going to, I guess, help me in my career. This is what's going to differentiate me from, you know, other people out there in the field, or just make me stand out in the crowd. And it was that feeling that motivated me to keep going.
And that's a good feeling, and that's a really good feeling, right? Yeah, and obviously your passes helped, right? I'm assuming your passes helped you to keep going.
Yeah, they did.
So obviously it's easy for us to be like, oh, your journey was so easy, you passed first time, all those things. Well, I don't like to assume that, by the way, but talk me through any of your low points or any struggles that you had.
Low points. Low points. I guess there were times when it was just really difficult to stay motivated. So last year, I'd say I didn't do any exams I did one exam in 2020. So I was on the last level at the beginning of 2020. I did E3, so that was the only exam I did in 2020, just because I just struggled to stay motivated during that time. I guess that was that would have been the best time to finish, because that's when I had the most free time. I was working from home, 24/7. So it was in 2021 when I made the challenge to myself to actually complete CIMA within the 5 months. So I think I've said that I passed the case study last May. That's when I sat it. So at the beginning of 2021, I still had P3, F3, and the case study to do. So that was quite a challenging point when I sort of made that challenge to myself to actually finish it by May. F3 was very tough. I think that was the toughest one out of 3, just simply because of how many calculations there were in such a short space of time, and you could only use that small on-screen calculator. They really need to fix that. I don't know how they. I saw so many people complaining about that as well. It's almost like they made the Squid Games out of a CIMA exam.
Oh, that's so interesting though, because I just wrongly assumed that you just took your exams every 3 months, but that didn't happen for you in 2020. There was just one exam.
Yeah, just one exam in 2020. So I think that was the year I struggled to stay motivated, and I think it happens. Like I was sort of I guess, study block, you'd call it.
Would you say, were you trying to kind of half study and just it took you ages, or did you actually have quite a long break and then you was like, what made you pick up E3, or were you just always half picking up E3 that year?
So no, E3 I started at the beginning of the year, and then I sat it around. I think I started that around April or May. I've forgotten now. And then when it came to studying for F3, because that would have been the next one, I don't know what happened. I was just like, I just can't be bothered to do this. And I started a new job at the time, so I was just getting into that as well. So I just thought, let me just put it on the back burner. And then again, going back to the point I made at the beginning, where I said I wasn't in a rush to qualify unless I truly felt I deserved it in terms of experience-wise. Even at that point, I didn't think I had enough experience to qualify. So yeah, there was that element of it as well.
That makes sense, and that makes sense for sure. That's great. I'm really glad that we talked about that bit of your journey a little bit more, because it's just easy to assume you just went through it and it was all fine, you know. But there's always highs and lows, right? Isn't it? This is why I'm enjoying doing these interviews so much, because everybody's revision journey is different, and I really love that.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of students that do come to me and say, oh, I'm changing jobs. I mean, I changed jobs during my CIMA journey a couple of times as well. I chose to never make the job a priority. I always kept my CIMA high priority for me, but I know everybody's different. So talk me through why for the rest of 2020, your job did come a priority as opposed to your CIMA F3.
Because at that role at the time, I was being exposed to, I guess, more ownership of the accounts. It was a small family office, so I was learning things that I'd never had to do before. So it was more things that managers in my previous role were doing, and I was doing it and actually learning how to do it. So and even learning that took a lot of time for me. So again, coming back to that point of experience, I just wanted to gain that experience over gaining the qualification. So there are times when I just come back from work and I was just too burnt out to even study. So there's that. So yeah, I mean, there's things that you can learn on a job that would, I know this is, I guess, interview about studying, but it's not the be all or end all. I think experience trumps anything that you'd learn from CIMA. And, once you understand that, then you just see CIMA as just, I guess, a trinket, or like not a trinket, sorry. I'd say it's more like a passport. It just shows that you can do it, or shows that you should have the ability to do it. But if your experience doesn't match up, then you might find yourself in a bit.
Yeah, definitely. And you're not the only person who's used the word passport. I would say, maybe I'm biased, but I would say it's more than a trinket. But a passport is a really beautiful word for it. Like, the foundation that our CIMA can give us is as long as we don't lose our letters and things like that, then it's a really, really great grounding and foundation. And it is a passport for opportunities. Lots of people I've interviewed have said that the opportunities that they've had is like the passport vibe. But yeah, you definitely can't get the plaque without the experience. Just because you've done the exams doesn't mean you know how to do it. No. Exactly. Let's talk about your journey in 2021 a little bit. Obviously, you did 3 exams very close together, and then there was a little bit of time between when you submitted your PR. I mean, you don't have to tell us, but is there any reason for that delay, or was it just the experience that you were trying to gain?
So the reason for the delay was simply because I finished the exams. I thought the hard part was over. And then I did submit the first one, and then I realized that I didn't, what's the word? Oh, how do I put it? I didn't write enough. I literally just put, bullet point answers, and they sent it back. So after I got all the references from all the previous jobs, my current role, everything, they sent it back and they said, yeah, this is pretty much not good enough. You need to write, 200 words per point. So so for me it was like, I'll do it when I'm bothered. And then that when I'm bothered turned into a couple months. And then it got to the end of the year. I thought, let me just do this, before it comes to the new year, and I still haven't done it. So,
yeah. Oh, I'm glad you did it.
On my part.
I only asked because I coach some people to finish their CIMA PER as well, just so that it doesn't become this massive, overwhelming task that's not there. So I've got a little PER course as well, just because
Oh, that's wicked. No, I wouldn't have found that before.
Yeah, no, I mean, because there is a way to write your PER, or if you're an ACCA student, there's performance objectives, but there is a way to write it, for example, no bullet points, and that will just help you get it submitted in a couple of weeks so that you can get your letters, a little bit sooner, right? And they get your plaque. So what opportunities did you think would come from being qualified when you first started?
When I first started, you know what's so funny? Because there's such a big difference between when you first start, your expectations, to when you actually, finish. When I first started, I thought, I'll be a qualified accountant. I'm just gonna walk in anywhere and say, yes, I'm a qualified accountant. I want to be financial controller, and you're going to pay me 100 grand a year, and all that lovely stuff. And then you realize it doesn't really work like that. What I've realized now is that even though I'm qualified, I still feel like I'm learning every day. So as I said, I've come from real estate and moving into private equity, fund accounting. It's a learning curve wherever you go. Not every industry is the same, so you can't just expect to be a qualified accountant and then walk into a place and then you're the big cheese. It just doesn't work like that. You could have someone that's probably come out of uni, been working there for about 3 years, and they'd probably be coaching you for the next 6 months. So
I'll let you into a secret. So, yeah, I'm going to let you into a secret.
Yeah.
In a few years, you will absolutely be able to jump. Like, you're still learning. Obviously, you'll always be learning, but you give it a year, and then you'll see some noticeable differences and jumps in your career for sure. And that 100 grand is not too far away. Not too far away if you want to jump for it. Obviously, you've only just qualified, which is totally fine, but is there anything that has happened so far since you've qualified, any opportunities or rewards you have had so far?
Being qualified, I've had quite a few people contact me. I'm actually going for a brunch tomorrow with like professionals. Like, it's more of a networking event, but again, if I wasn't qualified, I don't think I would have been invited for it. Even just to sit on the other side of the camera with you, that's another opportunity, and just to be able to motivate others, I feel like that's an opportunity. In terms of career opportunities, recruiters have constantly just hounding me, and constantly it's non-stop. So there's definitely a demand for people who are qualified. There's even if you're not qualified, even if you're still studying, there's definitely a demand for that. Companies are willing to take people on, and extremely happy when people qualify under them. I remember when I told my last manager that I passed my last exam, he had a smile from cheek to cheek. And that was, I'm sure that's probably what he's going to use as his selling point. Oh, the last guy that was here qualified with us, So yes, it does open up a lot of doors. I'm just hoping to see what more opportunities do come from it.
As many as you want, honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you want the opportunities. CIMA will give you some. CIMA gave me loads, and I've been qualified for 9 years. I've done many things with the CIMA.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so there's lots of doors going. Go and enjoy them. Okay, final question. I love this because I give loads of revision tips. So I'm asking everybody the same question. What is your number one revision tip for any qualifying accountants listening?
Revision tip, I would say, especially this one goes out to ACCA students, because I see a lot of ACCA students going through this. You know, it might not be the best advice, or people might not take this well, but just do one exam at a time. Honestly, especially if you're working as well, the overload, I don't know how people cope with doing 2, or some people even 3. You know, if you pass, and you know, well done. But I just see that as such a struggle. It's like you're making a hard task even harder. So I'd say just study for one exam at a time. Even if you fail, then just do that one again until you pass, and then move on to the next one. And in terms of like structuring your revision, I'd say set time to study, but also set time to have fun. Like outside of work, like you can't just work and study. You know, I see a lot of people just isolate themselves when it comes to their exams, because they're just overwhelmed with, you know, their work commitments and their study commitments. You know, do schedule in some time just to have fun, whether you're just going out with your friends or whatever. Just do that, because that does help. It does help clear your mind, and you find that you're in a much better space to study or take your exams when you've got a clear head. And resources, I'd say just make sure your resources are, you find good resources. You don't have to spend, you know, ridiculous amounts of money on, you know, resources. You can buy books off eBay from people who have just finished their exams, and they just want to get rid of them. For example, a lady bought all my like CIMA exams for the last level. She bought all my materials that I paid probably about over 150 quid for. She got it for about 50, so she's probably laughing.
And you've got some money for it too.
Yeah, I got some money for it, but you know, she got the better deal. In terms of CIMA, more specifically for case studies, it's really hard to get specific information or study material on that, just because it changes every time. So one place I would recommend that I used was Astranti, if I'm pronouncing it right. They do so they do breakdowns of the case studies, which are just excellent. They've been lifesavers, and it was just, you know, I found that even better than being in the class for my first case study, doing those Astranti courses online. So yeah, I know that was a big chunk of advice. But yeah.
Yeah, lots more than one tip there, but thank you. Yeah, I have partnership with Astranti as well myself, so I do have a link which I'll leave in the comments for anybody who wants to use any or look at any Astranti materials. There'll be a link for that, because I do recommend them, and I do highly recommend them for case studies as well. They give a lot of excellent pre-seen material, which is really great. So yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for being interviewed and being a revision geek with me for half an hour. It's so good to interview and learn your revision journey.
No problem. Thank you for doing this. Yeah, I just hope everybody, you know, everybody stays motivated, and everybody just watching this just wants to. I guess what people should take away from this is that, you know, everybody's been through this journey. People are going through this journey. People after you will be going through this journey. So just stay motivated and just cross the line. And yeah.
Finish what you started, guys. Yeah, we're here. Yeah. We are using our time on this platform on purpose to tell you it's worth it. Yeah.
It's definitely worth it.
Great. Thank you so much.
No problem.